What does detransitioning actually mean? And are trans kids who transition destined to regret it? This is Xtra Explains Detransition. I'm going to answer that second one right away. No, young people who transition are not destined to regret it like a bad tattoo. There's actually a lot of perfectly happy and adjusted people who transitioned and stayed that way, as well as perfectly happy and adjusted people who tried out transitioning, decided it wasn't for them, and went back to a previous identity. But there is a lot of bad science out there trying to convince us otherwise. Like this 2011 study that falsely claimed that 84% of transgender kids stopped being transgender. But it's riddled with errors like treating gender nonconformance the same as gender dysphoria, and just assuming that the nearly half of the children they couldn't locate for follow-up were automatically detransitioners. Yet despite these errors, it continues to be bandied about and used to support restrictions on gender-affirming care. And this is fueled by a small but vocal group of detransition activists who advocate for making it more difficult to access trans healthcare, projecting their own personal regrets onto the entire trans community, and projecting these kind of overblown images of mutilated kids who've undergone irreversible damage. But here's the actual facts. In reality, only 3% of trans people experience some form of regret, and a notable chunk of those do not regret transition itself, but certain technical aspects of medical transition that they didn't like. To compare, the regret rates of breast enhancement surgery are double or even triple that, and as many as 40% of people regret their nose jobs. For medically necessary mastectomies to reduce breast cancer risk, regret rates are between 5% and 14%. Meanwhile, transphobes focus on top surgeries for trans people, which have a regret rate of only 1%. The media buzz isn't really about surgery regret, it's a push to strip trans people of their right for medical care. Many aspects of transition are fully reversible, especially social changes like names, pronouns, and clothes. And as for medical transition, it's not the bleak picture of body mutilation and regret that some might imagine. When it comes to surgery, most trans people are satisfied with surgical results. And for the minority of those who have complaints, it's often related to the surgery technique or the need for a revision, rather than the transition itself. Many people actually advocate for the use of the term retransition rather than detransition, to suggest that somebody is simply transitioning back to a previous identity. In many cases, they still have access to the same services and gender-affirming care as first-time transitioners, they're just going in a different direction. In fact, most of the individuals in one landmark study did not return to their original gender identity after detransitioning, but rather came to see themselves as more gender fluid or non-binary. While some reported regret over medical transition, the vast majority did not. There are also plenty of reasons somebody will detransition or retransition, ranging from personal circumstance to facing transphobia in a non-supportive environment, such as non-affirming parents or experiences with conversion therapy. Detransitioning doesn't invalidate someone's identity or experience, so instead of pitting trans people and those who detransition against each other to score political points, we should really just focus on providing everybody with the resources and support that they need to navigate their own personal journey. So yeah, don't believe all the narratives you see online about trans kids becoming regretful shells of their former selves. You know what the vast majority of trans kids who transition become? Happy trans adults. For more explainers on everything you need to know about trans youth, head to xtramagazine.com.